Do you ever find yourself scrolling through social media when you're meant to be working? Well, you're certainly not alone. We all avoid tasks at time to time, and this is called procrastination. It's something that we all struggle with, but we don't have to let it control us and take over our working day. So in the next few minutes, we will break down exactly what procrastination is, why we struggle with it, and some tips and techniques to help to support with that. So the science of procrastination and why we struggle with it. So first of all, it's not laziness. It is your brain avoiding either something stressful or something uncomfortable. So what we have to remember is the brain sees everything new, everything uncomfortable, everything hard as a threat. And it thinks, because it can't tell the difference between imagination and reality, it thinks that those things are stresses such as, polar bears, things that we would have to deal with in primitive times, and therefore we end up avoiding doing the task. So it is not laziness, it's your brain avoiding discomfort. So common triggers for that is that something feels overwhelming. So it may feel like it's a really big task and you don't know where to start with that. You don't know where to start breaking it down. Therefore, your brain is like, whoa, okay, this is too much. I don't know where to start. So I'm not going to start anywhere because it's so uncomfortable. Fear of failure or perfectionism is something really common. So we want to get things perfect. So therefore we don't end up starting because we are afraid of not getting it right, of not getting it perfect. Lack of motivation or having unclear goals. So the lack of motivation is the procrastination. So it's like, I really don't want to start that because it's too uncomfortable, or it's just not very interesting, and that's fine as well. Not having particularly clear goals of where you're going to start. So there's all sorts of reasons why we end up procrastinating and not actually getting on with things, but what we have to remember is your brain can't tell the difference between imagination and reality. So to your brain, it thinks that these things are uncomfortable, horrible things. It doesn't know that it's just a work task that actually you're going to feel better after once you've completed. So if we think about a few ways in which we can actually start to beat that procrastination. So the first and probably most important way is to break tasks down into smaller steps. So as I said before, when our brain sees something as big and overwhelming, it thinks, well, okay, I don't know where to start, so I'm not going to start at all. It's also too much cognitive energy to use to think about it. So your brain has to think about all the different steps that it has to take in order to actually start. Whereas when we start to break something down into small steps, it doesn't have to use all of that energy. So it's easier. It thinks, okay, right, I can just get this, start this, and then I can do the next thing and the next thing. And what we have to remember is that motivation comes from action rather than action coming from motivation. So we often think that we are going to be, really motivated to do a task one day and it's just going to wash over us. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Within our brain, the motivation actually comes from taking the action, and this is where small steps are really important. So if you put that very first small step in place, like even if it is just, right, I'm going to turn the computer on, I'm going to, look at the to-do list, and I'm going to do 5 minutes of that first thing. That is your brain doing a task. When we complete a task, we get a sense of achievement. The chemical, the neurotransmitter that we get from that sense of achievement is called dopamine. When we get that little hit of dopamine, our brain thinks, right, okay, I can do the next thing. And that's when the motivation starts to come. It's like, okay, I can do the next thing, tick, dopamine, now I can do the next and the next and the next. So breaking things down into small steps is how we're going to get that motivation going. So it's worth sort of like writing a list either the night before or first thing in the morning of what you've got to do and breaking it down into those small steps. If you've got a million things going on in your head, if you've got a million tabs open, your brain doesn't know where to start and you won't end up starting at all. 5-minute rule. So I've just touched on that, but it's just starting with just 5 minutes. So even if you just set yourself a timer, you will probably find that actually you end up going over those 5 minutes because you've started to produce that bit of dopamine, and then you go on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Using time blocking techniques such as the Pomodoro technique, which is setting a timer for 25 minutes and then starting with a 5-minute break and then giving yourself a little bit of a longer break after 3 sets of 25 and 5 minutes. So you can get lots of different apps and timers and stuff to work within the Pomodoro technique, and it just helps because you are giving yourself a shorter period of time to focus. We end up losing focus and procrastinating when we are doing something for too long. Eliminating distractions. So phone is probably the most common distraction for all of us. So putting your phone away in a drawer for, even for 20 minutes and then giving yourself a couple of minutes to check it, or, closing unnecessary tabs down on your laptop. Emails is a really common one that I come across with my clients when they're getting email notifications popping up, distracted by that, end up replying to emails. So just closing your notifications down. Anything that is a common distraction that you can put in place to support with that. In terms of the mindset around procrastination, so as I said, don't call yourself lazy. It's not laziness, it's just working out why your brain's avoiding doing that thing and thinking about the things that you can put in place to make that easier for yourself. So be compassionate with yourself, don't beat yourself up. It just fuels that cycle of procrastination even more, because then you're feeling stressed, guilty. When you've got more stress and guilt there, you're going to be much more likely to not want to do anything. Visualize how you want your day to go, how you want that success to go, what you want to end up achieving. So instead of waking up in the morning and think, oh God, I've got all these tasks to do, visualize, actually, okay, I'm going to get to the end of today and I will have achieved these tasks. I'll have ticked them off and it's going to feel good by the end. And by the end, reward yourself as well. So when you finish, whether it's your reward is that you're going to go out for a little walk, whether it's that you're going to, if it's a food related reward, whether it's, I even have a client that at the moment is doing herself a little sticker chart for doing things. Whatever reward works best for you. So just remember that procrastination is normal, but with putting small things in place, you can conquer it. And be really mindful of your day-to-day stress levels as well. The more day-to-day stress you've got, if you're not getting enough sleep, then you're going to be much more likely to want to procrastinate and hide away from those uncomfortable tasks.